everyone, and welcome back to me. Sometimes talk about thrillers on Thursdays. I recently happened to have read a bunch of haunted house-esque horror novel new releases, and I thought it'd be fun to review them, but through the lens of which new haunted house book release would be right for you. So I want to emphasize that these are not necessarily my favorite haunted house books of all time. I think if you watch my videos for any period of time, you'll know that some of my favorites in the haunted house genre are Kill Creek. I also, of course, love the Elementals. So this is more so if you're looking at the new releases bookshelf, if you're trying to pick out a haunted house book for you for the Halloween season, which do I think would be the good fit for you. So I'm going to be reviewing 4 haunted house book recent releases. There will be no spoilers and slightly unrelated, but I would love to know what you all are watching right now for the Halloween season, because Mike Flanagan doesn't have a new TV show. There aren't in theaters a huge amount of horror movies coming out right now that I'm personally excited about. I just started Interview with the Vampire, which I'm very behind on and I'm really loving. But other than that, if you have anything you'd recommend that's kind of newer coming out you're excited about, please let me know, because maybe there's some things coming out that I've just missed. Okay, but let's go ahead and just dive right into the 4 haunted house books I've read recently and which I think would be the right pick for you. So first up is Diavola by Jennifer Thorne. And in this, it takes place in Italy in this beautiful setting where an American family, our protagonist is Anna, she's in her 30s, recently single, and it's the annual Pace family vacation, and she's very much the black sheep of the family, so she's not at all looking forward to this trip, even though I know all of us on its surface, we might think, oh my gosh, your family has this entire Italian villa that's incredibly historic out in the countryside near a small cute town. What could go wrong? This is so, perfect. I think that this is a horror novel where you are gonna know within the first 50 pages if it's right for you or not. I've heard a lot of people say that they really resonated with Anna and some of the things that she was dealing with her family, her being the black sheep, people just really not believing her, and all of the buildup and strife that's happened over the years, the incorrect ways that people view and interpret each other's actions. But at the same time, on top of that, there are a huge amount, well, I shouldn't say a huge, but there are a lot of also horror ghost elements in this, of course, spooky things happening in the night, seeing things, blood, death, there's a lot of that as well. But I would almost say that it's 60% family drama, 40% horror, but almost, I would say, half and half. I think that if you are someone who you resonate dealing with being the black sheep of the family, I think you might really enjoy this, or it might be too triggering. So maybe, pick your battles with how you pick up this book. But I also think it's a really good one for, I know I'm reviewing this in October. I actually think this is a great summertime horror read, so maybe one to add to your TBR if it sounds appealing based on what I've said, and a really nice summertime one. But I have seen a lot of reviews for this, and it'll actually be similar for the next book I'm talking about, where people were a little frustrated that it didn't have as much horror to it as they wanted. So bearing that in mind, hopefully that helps you decide if you want to pick it up, but I overall really enjoyed this one. Next is Model Home by Rivers Solomon. This is about the 3 Maxwell siblings, and when it kicks off, we have Esri, who's living in England with their daughter, and they end up having to go home to the Dallas suburbs to be with their 2 sisters, Eve and Emmanuel, because both of their parents have died. So it's going partially forward and backward in time as you're hearing about the horrible things that happened at their home. A lot of it in the back in time is dealing with the fact that they're a black family who's moved to the Dallas suburbs to build a life for themselves, and some of the social and racial issues that come with that. I think this would be a good horror novel for someone who wants a very unique take on a haunted house story, for someone who enjoys reading a lot of social political commentary in their books. I enjoy those pieces, but I understand a lot of people might not. And again, I think this would be good for someone who, if, as I'm describing this, you want a unique kind of modern take on a haunted house novel, because as you can tell by even the title, by the cover, Model Home, this is not an old Victorian haunted house. What I think when we think of haunted houses, we think of a big Victorian, or similar to Diavola, we picture something in Europe, an old castle, an old villa with the, centuries of ghosts that might be residing inside of this. This is model home because it's a brand new model home that they are moving into, and it had a slightly discounted price because it was the model home. I would also just caution you in reading this if you're expecting something with a huge amount of horror or super scary elements. A lot of this book is suspenseful and unnerving, but I would say out of all of the books I'm talking about on this list, it has the smallest amount of kind of classic horror haunted house elements. So just something really to keep in mind. I know I said for Diavola, I think within the first 50 pages, you would know if you would like it or not. I enjoyed Model Home, but I think a lot of people would know within the first 20 pages if they would like it or not. I've seen some of the reviews for this are pretty divisive. For number 3, we have one I finished just a few days ago and I really, really loved, and that is We Used to Live Here. This is about a couple, Charlie and Eve, who have moved into a big old Victorian house, my dream. I believe it's in Oregon or Washington State, but they moved in because they were going to remodel and flip the house, and then sell it to make some money. What's interesting about this one is it takes place, I kind of want to say, all over 24 to 48 hours. Eve is home alone because her girlfriend Charlie has left, and a family, it's a husband, wife, and 3 kids, knock on the door, and his name is Thomas, and he says, "I hope you don't mind, but I used to live here." That's why it's called We Used to Live Here. I used to live here. I know it's short notice, but is it all right if I give my seemingly perfect family a tour of this home just because we happen to be driving by across the country? And so, as I'm sure you can imagine, eventually lets them into their home and some very, very terrifying things start to occur. In terms of who I think would enjoy this book, if you want, I would say out of every book I'm talking about today, this is the most classic haunted house in terms of it takes place in a Victorian. She starts to see really scary things, and some of the imagery really, really stuck with me in terms of things she's seeing, hearing, people she's encountering out in the snowy woods because it takes place during the winter time. So what I would say is if you want kind of a more classic haunted house tale, but with some interesting elements, especially towards the very end, I think you would really like this. A big, big caveat, I will say, and again, I'm really trying to not talk about spoilers for any of these. I'm not about to say anything that I consider a spoiler. The thing that I will say is this book is not for you if you're someone who wants it to be fully wrapped up by the end of the book. And that's all I'm going to kind of say because you can interpret that, I think, many, many different ways. But what I would recommend doing is if you read this book, there are a lot of really interesting Reddit threads that get down into the weeds, really getting into all these different kind of documents that are throughout the book. What do they mean? What do the numbers mean? There's a lot more to this book than kind of I think I even realized as I was initially reading it. And I kind of even want to go reread it again because part of it also feels like a little bit of a mystery as well. But I know this has been a popular one lately, so if you haven't picked it up yet, I hope that helps you maybe decide a little bit on if it was right for you. But I will say I really, really loved by this one. I was a little frustrated by the ending, but the more I read about it online and some theories, I'm starting to appreciate it more. And this is also one of our Year of Horror book club picks down in our Discord. So if you want to check that out, the link is always down below if you want to join and become a part of our book club. Last but not least, now this one is a little bit of a stretch, calling it a haunted house book, but I'm going to explain why. Last but not least is Victorian Psycho. Our protagonist is Winifred Naughty, who arrives at Ensor House prepared to play the perfect Victorian governess. She has her dutiful charges, Drusilla and Andrew, tells them bedtime stories. But let's just say that after Winifred, who again is this governess, this takes place unsurprisingly during Victorian times, as she joins and integrates herself into the Pounds family, some really, really horrific things start to happen. From even reading the inside book cover, even within the first 2 chapters, you can tell that something is quite off about Winifred. So I will admit that it is a big stretch, me calling this a haunted house tale at all, because I will just say Winifred is not seeing ghosts throughout the book. The reason I'm putting this sort of under the umbrella is a haunted house book is because you have this big old Victorian mansion and other people in the house, horrible things start happening to them and they start wondering what the heck is going on, and they start telling each other ghost stories because again, after Winifred joins, some strange shit really starts to go down. So again, big stretch calling it a haunted house book. But I think if you're someone who you want a horror novel, and this does get really, really, really gory. If you want a gory, Victorian, slightly humorous horror novel that you can have some fun with, I think this is a really entertaining one. It also ends around Christmas time, so if you want to bookmark this one to read during December, I think it would be really, really fun. Something about this feels very, very cheeky, and I feel like I could see if Emerald Fennell, is that her name? The director who did, gosh, what is that movie called? Saltburn. I think if she were to dabble in horror, I could see her making this into a movie. And again, I know as I'm describing it, it might sound like I'm spoiling things, but you can tell, again, it says on the inside blurb that Winifred comes to the house and then horrible things start happening. And you're in her very strange brain throughout this entire book. And it's just a trip. It's gory, it's fun, it's strange. I found myself laughing out loud. I think the audiobook for this is really, really good. This is for someone who wants things that are gory, humorous, can deal with a protagonist that's super unlikable, but in a weird way, I found myself kind of rooting for her. Then I think you might really like this one, but again, I could understand why a lot of people would not be a fan. And then last but not least, this is kind of an honorary mention, number 5. I'm reading The Reformatory right now, and I absolutely love it. I'm only halfway through, so I didn't feel as if I could truly add it onto this list. But for that category, I would say if you want some historical horror, I would also put that under the umbrella of Haunted House, because the little boy who's put in this reformatory is seeing ghosts constantly. So I think it fits under that umbrella, but again, I haven't actually finished it yet, so I couldn't officially put it on this list. So basically, I was just trying to do a fun way to review some recent horror novel releases. Please let me know if you've read any of these and your thoughts down below. And also, of course, I would love to know, what is your favorite haunted house book of all time? Again, I might have to do House of Leaves, The Elementals, Kill Creek. I'm sure I can think of others. I'm sure I'll think of others as soon as I stop recording, but I would absolutely love to hear your favorites down below. But I hope everyone is having a wonderful Halloween season, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.